are tuberous breasts? Tuberous breasts are characterized by a few things. That it's quite a variable syndrome, which means a constellation of signs. It's quite a variable presentation, but it's usually a combination of a high fold, a high breast crease, a narrow breast base, nipple droop, breast asymmetry, underdevelopment of the lower part of the breast, so a so-called deficient lower pole of the breast. The lower pole is anything below the nipple, and a herniated areola, which means basically puffy nipples, enlarged puffy nipples, and those things are tuberous breasts. And depending on what is present, that addresses how we should deal with it. So if there is fold height asymmetry, we'll deal with that. If there is puffiness of the nipple, we'll deal with that. The combination that tends to work well in the majority of cases, and having just said we treat them on an individualized basis, there are some combinations that tend to work really well. One of those is breast implants, and I get a lot of questions, people saying, do you absolutely have to have breast implants to address tuberous breasts? No, you don't absolutely have to have them, but if there is a real lack of volume, and sometimes there's a profound lack of volume, then breast implants are the most sensible, quickest way to get there for most people. The other thing is a reduction of the areola, so a so-called periareolar mastopexy, where there's a scar that's made around the areola, and that's to address the mismatch between the amount of areolar skin you've got and the actual aperture, the circumference in which it exists. And if you think of pincushioning, it's kind of like a pincushion. The shape looks like a pincushion, and what a pincushion is this load of material that the area of which exceeds the surface area in which it's been placed, so it bulges out. And the nipple's doing the same thing, so we want to reduce that. When I'm doing a periareolar reduction, a reduction of the areola, usually to get an uplift or to reduce the nipple size, you get pleating around the edge because I'm reducing a large circumference into a small one. That doesn't happen with tuberous breasts. It's really interesting because instead of reducing the outer circumference to meet a smaller one, we may be keeping the outer circumference of the areola the same, and actually making a too large areola fit it, so you don't get that sort of pleating mismatch. I don't know if that made sense. Did that make sense?
I don't know.
You weren't listening.
No, tuned out.
Yeah, I sensed you had. So,
glazed over.
And the third thing. Can I say the third thing?
Donut.
Yeah.
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 So imagine a donut with a hole.
Yeah. So when we're doing an areola reduction, right? So say you've got a big areola, then we have to make a cut around the outside of it, and then we make the areola smaller, and we cinch the outer skin down to the inner skin, and in doing that we create all this pleating, but it settles down. With a periareolar mastopexy in the context of tuberous breasts, actually the areola itself may be the right size, but the nipple is bulging out of it because there's too much areola. So you make a cut around the outside, that's the diameter you want anyway, that's the circumference you want anyway. Then, as you've made the cut, the areola can kind of unfurl and spread out around it, and you recut it to match it, so you don't get that pleating. I think that was a better go the second time.
I think that was better second time.